The Haunted Mansion, Disneyland's iconic attraction. A place that has captured the imaginations of millions, young and old alike. A place where ghoulish delight is juxtaposed with spine-tingling chills. The eerie ambiance, the ghostly figures, and the spine-chilling sound effects all contribute to its legendary status. I'd walked its halls countless times, laughing at the cheesy ghosts and spooky sound effects. The playful spirits and the haunted decor always seemed more amusing than frightening. But tonight was different. Tonight, I wasn't a tourist. I wasn't here for the fun and games, the laughter and the thrills. I was a paranormal investigator, alone, locked inside the mansion after dark. The usual crowds were gone, and the playful atmosphere had turned ominous. A stupid dare, some might say. A challenge issued by friends who doubted my courage, or perhaps my sanity. An irresistible challenge, I claimed. The thrill of the unknown, the chance to uncover secrets hidden in the shadows. The last employee left, locking the massive iron gates behind him. The sound of the gates closing echoed through the night, a final reminder that there was no turning back. I stood in the stretching shadows of the mansion, the air thick with anticipation and dread. The once familiar surroundings now seemed foreign and menacing. A low fog was rolling in, shrouding the grounds in an eerie silence. The fog seemed to move with a life of its own, creeping closer with every passing second. This was my chance to prove, once and for all, if the haunted mansion was truly haunted. The stories, the legends, the whispers of ghostly apparitions and unexplained phenomena. Tonight, I would uncover the truth. Armed with my paranormal equipment, I ventured deeper into the mansion. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of the candlelight heightened my senses. A cold breeze brushed past me, sending shivers down my spine. Was it just a draft or something more sinister? Shadows seemed to dance on the walls, moving in ways that defied logic. My heart raced as I tried to capture any evidence of the supernatural. A ghostly whisper echoed through the halls, barely audible but unmistakable. Was it a trick of the mind or a genuine spirit trying to communicate? Determined to find answers, I pressed on. The fear was real, but so was my resolve. This was more than a dare, it was a quest for the truth. As I explored deeper into the mansion, the line between reality and the supernatural blurred. Every step brought me closer to the heart of the mystery. The unknown awaited, and I was ready to face it. The haunted mansion held its secrets tightly, but tonight, I was determined to unravel them. Stepping inside, the air grew heavy, thick with the smell of dust and decay. Moonlight filtered through the grimy windows, illuminating swirling dust motes. I walked through the endless hallways, each creaking floorboard echoing in the silence. Cobwebs clung to every surface, and the portraits on the walls seemed to watch my every move. The air was stagnant, heavy with the energy of untold stories. I could feel a presence watching me from the shadows. It was subtle but undeniable. A shiver ran down my spine, and I pulled my jacket tighter around me, trying to shake off the feeling of being watched. My footsteps echoed through the grand ballroom, each step reverberating off the walls like a distant memory trying to resurface. Dust-covered tables were set for a feast that never began, the once vibrant tablecloths now faded and tattered, remnants of a forgotten celebration. Ghostly music seemed to drift from the cobwebbed rafters, a haunting melody that played on the edge of my consciousness, as if the past was trying to communicate through the notes. I stopped in the center of the room, my breath catching in my throat. The air was thick with the weight of untold stories, and I could almost feel the presence of those who once danced here. Faint whispers seemed to emanate from the shadows, too low to decipher, yet undeniably present. They carried a sense of urgency, as if they were trying to convey a message lost in time. I strained my ears, trying to pinpoint the source of the whispers, but they seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It was as if the very walls were alive, murmuring secrets of the past. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end, and I spun around, searching for the source of the disembodied voices. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing the eerie silence that surrounded me. But there was nothing there. No figures, no faces, just the overwhelming sense of being watched by unseen eyes. Just the shadows and the dust dancing in the moonlight. The room seemed to breathe with a life of its own, the moonlight casting eerie patterns on the floor, as if the spirits of the past were still waltzing in the pale glow. The chandelier above swayed gently, its crystals catching the light and casting tiny rainbows across the room. It was as if the ballroom itself was trying to hold on to its former glory, refusing to let go of the memories that once filled its space. On one of the tables, I noticed a dusty old photograph. It was faded, but I could make out the faces of elegantly dressed men and women, their expressions frozen in time. They seemed to be looking right at me, their eyes filled with stories untold. I gently picked up the photograph, brushing off the dust. As I examined it, I felt a strange connection to the people in the picture, as if their spirits were reaching out to me, trying to share their tales of joy and sorrow. Placing the photograph back on the table, I looked around the room once more. The whispers had faded, but the sense of presence remained. It was clear that this ballroom held more than just memories. It held the very essence of those who had once graced its floors. As I slowly walked out of the ballroom, I glanced back one last time. The moonlight continued to dance with the shadows, and the whispers seemed to follow me, a reminder that the past is never truly gone. It lingers, waiting for someone to listen, to remember, and to honor the stories that time has tried to erase. The eyes in the portraits. They followed me. Every room I entered, every hallway I traversed, their gaze seemed to bore into my soul. Their painted eyes held an unnerving life, reflecting a depth of sadness and longing that sent shivers down my spine. One portrait in particular caught my attention. A beautiful woman in a flowing white gown, her eyes filled with a haunting melancholy. As I stared into her eyes, I felt a cold spot wash over me and the air grew heavy, as if a weight had settled on my chest. I could have sworn her lips moved, forming words I couldn't hear. The mansion was a labyrinth of cold spots. Each room held pockets of icy air, so frigid it seemed to suck the heat from my body. As I wandered through the dimly lit hallways, the temperature seemed to drop even further, making each step feel like a journey into the unknown. The walls, covered in peeling wallpaper, seemed to close in on me, amplifying the cold that seeped into my bones. Goosebumps erupted across my skin, and I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to ward off the chill. The sensation was more than just physical. It was as if the very essence of the mansion was trying to communicate with me, sending shivers down my spine. I could almost hear whispers in the air, faint and indistinct, adding to the eerie atmosphere. These were not the normal drafts of an old building. These were different. They seemed to have a life of their own, swirling around me unpredictably. It was as if the mansion itself was alive, breathing cold air into the rooms, creating an unsettling environment that kept me on edge. These felt like the icy breath of the supernatural. Each gust of cold air felt deliberate, as if some unseen entity was exhaling its presence into the space around me. The chill was so intense that it felt like it was reaching into my soul, leaving me with a sense of dread that was hard to shake off. One particular cold spot near the endless staircase was particularly intense. The staircase seemed to stretch on forever, disappearing into the darkness above. The cold here was almost unbearable, as if the staircase was a portal to another, much colder world. I hesitated to climb it, feeling an overwhelming sense of foreboding. The air grew so cold I could see my breath, and a wave of dizziness washed over me. My vision blurred for a moment, and I had to steady myself against the banister. The cold seemed to sap my strength, making it difficult to think clearly. It was as if the mansion was trying to keep me from discovering its secrets. I stumbled back, feeling a presence there so strong it felt like a physical force. It was as if an invisible hand was pushing me away, warning me to leave. The sensation was both terrifying and fascinating, making me question what kind of entities might be inhabiting this old, haunted mansion. The experience left me with a deep sense of unease, but also a burning curiosity to uncover the mysteries hidden within its walls. I ventured deeper into the mansion, my flashlight cutting a narrow beam through the oppressive darkness. A sudden noise from the library startled me, the unmistakable sound of a book falling to the floor. My heart pounded in my chest as I slowly approached the room, my senses on high alert. As I reached for the light switch, I felt a cold, clammy hand brush against mine. I recoiled instantly, knocking the flashlight from my grasp. It clattered to the floor, plunging me into absolute darkness. Blindly, I scrambled for the flashlight, my heart racing. I stumbled upon the mansion's infamous Séance Room. The round table sat in the center, draped in cobwebs and illuminated by a single flickering candle. I ran my fingers over the dust-covered surface, feeling the weight of unseen eyes upon me. This room pulsed with energy, a swirling vortex of otherworldly presence. As I stood there, the candle suddenly flared, casting grotesque shadows that danced across the walls. Then, just as suddenly, it went out, plunging the room into absolute darkness. A cold fear gripped me and I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. I was not alone. The chilling, disembodied laughter of the ghost host echoed through the mansion. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, bouncing off the walls, mocking me. Panic welled up inside me, threatening to overwhelm my senses. I quickened my pace, my flashlight beam dancing wildly across the walls as I desperately searched for an exit. The laughter intensified, growing louder, closer. I could feel the ghost host's presence, cold and menacing, right behind me. I broke into a run, my heart pounding in my chest. The mansion seemed to twist and turn around me, its endless hallways a dizzying maze from which there was no escape. I could hear the ghost host's laughter echoing behind me, urging me forward in my terror. Finally, I burst through the front doors and into the cool night air. I stumbled down the steps, gasping for breath, my clothes soaked in a cold sweat. Turning back, I could see the silhouette of the ghost host in the window, his laughter still echoing in my ears. The mansion stood silent now, its secrets locked away once more. As I drove away, the rising sun cast a warm glow over the imposing structure, but the shadows of the night lingered in my mind. The whispers, the cold spots, the touch in the darkness. I had gone into the haunted mansion seeking answers, but I left with more questions than ever before. The experience had shaken me to my core, leaving me with an unshakable feeling that the haunted mansion is truly haunted. And I am left with the chilling knowledge that some things are best left undisturbed.